Hello, everyone. I'm so happy and excited to be here. I have been working on some chat and learns for Power to Fly and just so excited to be participating in the summit. I just love to chat with wonderful speakers and get to know them and get to share their stories with all the audience and everyone. And do really wonderful Q&As where we get to learn and gain wisdom and knowledge from one another. So with that, I think maybe we just dive right in and I'll ask the first question to Maggie. Maggie, can you start telling us a little bit about your career journey and how you got into fintech?
Sure, I'll be happy to. And first of all, I want to say thank you to Power to Fly for asking me to join this panel, and obviously for everyone who is dialed in today to listen to our sections. I hope you benefit from the summit and from my section as well. I'm very excited to be here. So to answer your question, Katie, I had a degree in finance from NYU and started in the operations side of financial services after graduation, and quickly learned that I prefer a role that combines providing solutions to clients and conducting analyses. So from that operations role, I moved on to a relationship management side in commercial banking, and then became more specialized in the credit space within a debt capital markets group. After spending my first 7 years advancing my career in Hong Kong, where I grew up, I'm becoming very familiar with the Asian markets. I took my career to the next level with relocating back to the US because I want to saw like a more broad global perspective of the products and became a product specialist in the asset management side of the sector. And having seen how technology disrupts the business operations and the competitive landscape in financial services, I really wanted to leverage my experience and skill set, to provide and deliver enhanced solutions to global clients. And I was very fortunate to have joined Silicon Valley Bank less than a year ago as a senior product manager. So I currently manage our off-balance sheet liquidity solutions and investment strategies platform, lead our product development initiatives, as well as enhance our product features and business processes. This fintech role utilizes my banking experience, knowledge in credit and investments, as well as the understanding of global client needs. As Silicon Valley Bank serves clients from pre-Series A startups, fintech, healthcare companies, all the way through to like IPO corporates and the venture capital and private equity firms that fund and manage these startups, I really enjoy the exposure to the innovation ecosystem and making that pivot from traditional finance to fintech.
Thank you so much for giving us the background. For someone who is trying to identify if fintech is a career for them to pivot towards, where maybe they came from some other industry or is an educator, for example, how can they identify that fintech is a career for them?
Sure. I think this largely depends on what you're most passionate about and interested in your work experience so far. For me, I've been intrigued by the technological disruption in financial services that we see in the last few years. And I've always focused on, automating or improving my own business processes throughout my career. So pivoting from traditional finance to fintech was a natural progression. For someone who might be in a different industry or who might not, have shared a similar passion that I have, for example, if you're really interested in coaching other people or sharing knowledge, even though your role is not really focusing on that part, an example could be good next steps could be financial education or even financial inclusion, which, these roles have been really gaining importance in the last couple of years.
And so, yeah, I would love to hear some suggestions and tips for people who they are really focused on getting from traditional finance into fintech. Can you share the suggestions and tips with us?
Sure. I would say three biggest tips I would share. The first one being know your expertise. Fintech firms and startup companies typically look for talent with deep knowledge, experience, and network with specific areas. So knowing and advocating your niche will help with your transition to fintech and also help you narrow down a list of target companies to work for. The second tip I would offer is to be agile and have a broad skill set. This might sound contradictory to what I just said about the expertise part, but fintech and startups also typically run really lean, and it's very common for an employee to wear many hats in their role. In my product management capacity, I could be asked to present at a client meeting to discuss our market outlook, or could be pulled in to develop a risk management framework to ensure our product growth is conducted in a strategic and prudent manner. So I think demonstrating that you have different types of experience will give you the opportunity to contribute in other ways that, than a job description that you are hired for. And I say lastly is network, network, and network. Smaller companies may have less structured recruiting approach or resources in talent acquisitions. Many of them rely on, word of mouth referrals or platforms such as Power to Fly to help them locate the best talent. So expanding your fintech network will not only help you with your transition, it can also present job opportunities, roles, or companies that you may not previously have heard of. And nowadays, with plenty of online networking opportunities, I would also advise a targeted networking approach. Think about the types of professionals you want to meet with. Is that business development, software engineering, or customer success? And think about what the types of firms that you want to know more people at, whether it is the 5 people startup or the large venture capital firms that leverage your fundraising or investment background. I think networking with a purpose will allow you to meet professionals that you inspire to collaborate with, and also companies that you might want to wish work at one day. And I think lastly, when you network, always go in with the mentality to help other people. I think one that makes you feel really good about doing it. And this helping yourself mentality does translate and could help you back as you continue to expand that network.
Thank you for offering that. And sometimes it's about sharing the lessons learned along the way and really not being afraid of making some small mistakes and failures, but then really learning from them and
Yep.
moving forward from that place. And for people who cannot go back to traditional school, what resources can you suggest for them to gain new skills and sharpen their skills?
Sure. I think we are very fortunate with the vast digital resources these days. Many courses online from machine learning to how to interview for a product management role are offered by companies such as LinkedIn, Coursera, and so on. And with the pandemic outbreak last year, you also see a number of Ivy League or even overseas universities offering these online classes. And many of them are either free or offer at a very reasonable cost. So if you're not sure what class to take, you can always look for a short introductory course and see if the topic appeals to you. While balancing a full-time job at home, taking classes and other personal obligations can be difficult. Being committed to lifelong learning and I think identifying areas that have interested me has really motivated me to dedicate the time to complete the coursework. And like right now, I'm taking a design thinking class from NYU that puts what I do on a daily basis at work to a more creative spin. And I'll offer one more suggestion is, find a friend or ask your partner to take the same course or just at least take a class with you at the same time. Having accountability and being interested in what you learn will help you stay on track and also develop a common interest that you have with the other person.
Great. As far as the transition, thinking about transferable skills, how can someone convince their new employer um, that they are a valuable asset when competing with other experienced candidates?
I would certainly highlight 3 biggest transferable skills. Obviously, it's not limited to those 3, but the first one is being analytical. With the broader availability and increasing emphasis on data, employers really look for candidates to utilize a data-driven approach to problem solving. So maybe think about whether you've done a complex analysis before where that really helps you understand your client preferences or product demand that you can, translate that into the new role that you're looking at. The second one is the interpersonal skills, which include both communications and relationship development. I think both skills are key to success for almost any role that we do. Relationship management is important for collaborating with your internal stakeholders or for selling your products to customers. And being able to communicate effectively your product strategy, a business case, or just telling your clients about the benefits of your products is going to be very directly correlated to your job performance. And I think lastly, agility and adaptability are particularly sought after in fintech and smaller companies now. As we've seen last year, the macroeconomic environment can change so rapidly for these companies that employees just needs to be able to adapt quickly to the changing demands of their customers and the market environment. And to Katie, your question on convincing a new employer to hire you over other candidates, I would first draw on the relevance of your work experience to the role that you're looking at, even though it's not exactly the same. For example, are there any best practices in risk management that you develop in your prior roles that you can bring over to a fintech startup to build that framework? Secondly, I definitely would encourage you to do the homework. Understand the company, their customers, and the competitive landscape and overall operating environment. I think demonstrated you're genuinely interested in the company, whether it is their mission, products, or even culture, definitely keep you motivated, because I think having passion in what you do, especially sometimes we work longer hours during the pandemic, really help you to continue to contribute to your role in the long run. And I think furthermore, demonstrate the fact that you have an open mind and a can-do attitude. Think about providing examples where you have gone beyond your way to help a colleague or a client, or take on additional responsibilities or side projects when you're not asked to do so. I think despite how similar somebody's experience to the next job would be, there'll always be some type of learning curve. So showing an employer that you can learn quickly and are willing to do more and are always at your best is important to a successful career no matter where you are.
Great. We did have a question come through in the chat. Maggie, if you'd want to take a look and see how we might be able to fold that in to the talk. And while I read this next question, which is the question would be kind of specific for someone who has been on shorter contracts with startups and that they want to pivot into a larger established company. How can they go about doing that?
Yeah, I would definitely focus on the achievements across the contract roles, such as the product features you delivered, initiatives completed, or new business that you acquired during those contracting roles, and discuss how this experience can be applicable to the role in the larger company. And startups tend to operate at a much faster pace with less structure, while larger companies move slower sometimes with more defined company policies. So if you have the experience of establishing business processes or enhanced internal framework at the startup, that will definitely be very helpful to discuss, because you understand how larger companies can operate. And I would say more importantly, have a well thought out response on why you're looking to move away from startups, which sometimes can appear a lot more exciting. And you may think about, making a larger impact at a smaller firm. So the fact that you want to move into a larger company, is that because of the broader exposure you get, or whether it's the global operations that your diverse perspective can add value? I think being able to articulate that motivation to move to the larger company and then highlight the relevant skills and achievements to the role will be very important.
And of course, we want to hear what are things that you love about being in fintech, and maybe that can also correlate with the question of the biggest challenges in fintech right now.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about what I like the most about a career in fintech and then address the question we just received on the challenges that these firms are facing right now. So I think what I like the most about fintech is, one, the evolving nature. As my product roadmap is directly tied to the financial market dynamics and client needs, my responsibility and initiatives can change very quickly. So there's not been a typical day for me at the role in product management. Being in product also expands my exposure and collaboration with multiple internal and external stakeholders. So this will allow me to develop a broader skill set and enhance my communication skills. My company, Silicon Valley Bank, has been a growth story for quite some time. And last week, we just announced our best quarterly earnings yet, with 27% ROE. My liquidity solutions team has grown so quickly that, after being at the company for only less than a year, I was given a leadership opportunity. And I'm super excited to be hiring a few new roles right now. So feel free to check out our website and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if any of you in the audience would like to learn more about the company or any of the open roles that we're looking to hire. I would say the second aspect of what excites me about a job in fintech is the ability to make that larger impact. My company cultivates an open and collegial culture in which fresh perspective to existing products and processes, as well as best practices from my prior roles have been really appreciated. My colleagues are always eager and respect to hear my views, and I've been given the opportunity to be more creative on the product creation and development process. And being able to take on additional responsibilities, like I mentioned, in a short period of time, allow me to see how my liquidity product deliverables really directly impact and fulfill our clients' financing and investment objectives. And I would say the last piece of it is that direct exposure to industry changes. We all read about these big IPOs, for example, the one in Coinbase a couple weeks ago, startup acquisitions, and successful launch of new technologies. It also translates to us that our bank is leveraging our experience in the startup world and proactively work with our clients to have the most optimal fundraising plans and partnerships to achieve their goals. Not only our company has been providing strategic financial support and banking services, as a company, we also share our expertise, our market insights, and also access to industry connections to our clients. So I think that direct impact is really exciting for me. And kind of going to the question that just came through on what sort of biggest challenges do we see right now in the fintech world? I would say that the fintech industry is definitely changing very rapidly, especially since the pandemic has started. What I envision is that there will be increased competition with the traditional financial services firm. We see how the digital banks, when retail customers don't have to go to a bank location anymore because everything is shut down, but so it's benefited some of these digital banks that have launched, but it also pushed the traditional financial services firm to become more nimble and focus on the digital product and service offering. So while I believe that there will be more and more fintechs coming into the market with more specialized capabilities, I can also see the traditional firms, trying to maintain their market share. So I think that on both sides, resulting in more enhanced market competition. I would say that another challenge is there's a lot of liquidity and strong fundraising in the market right now. It hasn't slowed down since we've seen in the beginning of the year, or even since the pandemic. However, I think with a lot of dry powder from the VC and PE firms, there are a lot more also opportunities for fund investments. So they'll become more picky in who they want to give the money to. So I think these fintech firms being able to find their niche and have a very clear business proposal, why they want those fundraising will be important. I think the supply and demand dynamics is very supportive, but I think being able to articulate your fintech firm mission will also be very important. And I'll say lastly, we see economical recovery now, where everybody's starting to get vaccinated, states reopening gradually. I've seen a lot of movements of talent, both within traditional finance and also across fintech firms. So while the fintech firms look for talent with deep knowledge, expertise, and network that they want to bring over from traditional firm, I've also seen more competition for the right talent. And as we also think about the dynamics of financial institutions, some of them cutting costs or reducing headcount, how do we do more with less, and how do we hire the best talent? I think it's a good problem to have, but at the same time, hopefully it presents a lot of us a good opportunity to do the transition.
Thank you for that. And we'd love to go back to a little bit of your journey, and then maybe you can offer some advice for yourself looking back of how you may have navigated a little bit differently in one way or another.
Sure. If I wanted to go back, my over a decade plus of experience, one thing I would have told my younger self would be take more risk. I joined a large bank after university instead of a competing hedge fund offer, thinking that I'm just really new to the financial services space. The large bank was a safer place to start my career. And in hindsight, my career would have turned out very different. or may have even advanced faster if I went to the hedge fund, which did do quite well during the global financial crisis. I mean, that said, I think since that experience, I've taken larger risk. Just to give you an example, I moved from Hong Kong, where I grew up, super metropolitan like New York, to take on a job in Iowa without knowing anyone in the midst of the cold winter so that I can just get the exposure to the investment management side of the business in 2015. So I was, suggest to the audience here today, if you're presented with an opportunity that could appear pretty risky, whether it could be just a very small startup or you don't really see the clear career path in that role, definitely do your research, talk to more experienced professional for their advice, and I would say go with your gut. Even if that opportunity does not work out in the long run, I'm confident that you'll learn from the experience that will guide you to make better career decisions and also open up to a more diverse set of opportunities for you in the future.
Yeah, so we have about maybe 6 minutes left or so. Um, and I would love to ask you some career related questions. For example, how do you carve out time for a job search and stay balanced with your current job?
Sure. I would say while I'm super excited to be taking on additional responsibilities in a leadership role and obviously hiring more people in my team at Silicon Valley Bank, it is important to stay connected with my network and continue to grow it. I don't think networking or looking at jobs is purely for going to the next role. Networking with other professionals gives you the industry insights that you might not get from maybe reading the news. And I think it's also important to learn more about other companies' best practices and see how you might be able to translate that in your current role. So what I do is I proactively take time out from my job to want to attend conferences like this one, webinars on a topic that might be interested to learn more, and just get on, maybe an online networking meeting. I think this has been able to give me more knowledge and a more diverse perspective of what my current role, and forcing yourself to just log off from your job and then go into an online conference or go out there and meet somebody else. I think it gives you a really nice mental break so that you can come back to your job the next day with really fresh ideas and perspective.
Find it fascinating that when you do talk to someone, then maybe some assumptions that you have for yourself could potentially get cleared up along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some strategies for keeping up with the momentum of the job search?
Yeah, I would say that, always keep an eye out for opportunities, even if, like myself, happy in your current role. Connecting with recruiters or hiring managers, at this point can give you more insights whether one, you're compensated fairly at market price at what you do. Two is know the demand of your skill set and experience. And three is, establishing these relationships if they reach out to you at this juncture could be very helpful down the road when one day you may be ready to take the next step to go somewhere else or maybe forced to look for an opportunity. So I would say really set, regular goals on getting onto a conference or going to a networking meeting. I mean, there are times when I feel like I'm super tired from a long day of Zoom meetings at work and I don't feel like I want to talk about work or myself anymore. I think ultimately when I forced myself to join, I met somebody new, I heard something really interesting that they share. I really feel like I left the meeting something take away, and hopefully I can help other people as well. So I think that satisfaction is always there. It might just be a little bit difficult to kind of push yourself to do it. So I think setting yourself some goals or reminding yourself constantly to continue to network, I think will be important.
I want to ask the AI question. So, what role do you see AI and automation playing out in fintech?
I think both would play a bigger role in fintech for sure. On the automation side, many financial institutions have been going through their business transformation journey to enhance their efficiency and also to reduce costs. A number of them have done so by establishing their own transformation team, creating new systems and processes, or they might outsource to a fintech firm that and leverage their capabilities. As these larger organizations become more nimble in their operations, smaller fintech firms will need to keep up with the larger players in their product offering and diversify the client base that they might not compete as well because they're smaller in scale. And I would say on the AI side, fintech firms will definitely adopt more of these strategies in the business operation, to help them gather customer insights and to predict market dynamics in a more timely manner. That said, I think there will be an increasing focus on the inherent biases. We've all heard of the concept garbage in and garbage out. So establishing the correct parameters and assumptions in your data analyses before going through the AI process will be very crucial to effectively using AI.
Great. And before we go, I mean, we love to hear from you the tactical and mindful actions for making a pivot for you, things that have worked.
Sure. Um, I would say that I'll start high level and maybe give a few examples of what has worked really well for me. So I would say high level tips would be, be specific on what you want and focus on the goal. Fintech is a very broad sector. You could go from wealth management like a robo advisor, or payments, or even an insure tech firm. So what are you most interested in and have relevant skill set in, and define those target companies and roles that you want to go into. I think makes you more focused in your networking conversation and your job search process, and also allow you to have more robust response to the interview questions that I've heard a lot. Why are you looking to pivot? Why are you looking to move this role? I think if you cannot clearly articulate the answer, others will be unlikely to be convinced about your transition. Secondly, I think is make a plan, refine it along the way, and really stick to the plan. This is very important, particularly when you're doing it while working full time, given the time commitments that we have otherwise. Set weekly goals of what you want to accomplish, whether it is reaching out to your existing contacts or attending networking events, or even tweaking your resumes for specific roles that you're applying for. I think having a plan will keep you more accountable and motivated in this journey. Even though in the beginning you may not see a clear path, which I think a lot of us are, slightly worried about the uncertainty. But once you build up that momentum, you definitely see more gradual progress and engage in more job-related conversations. And then you can probably move on to, interviewing, preparing for the interviews and case studies. And what you might have done that have not worked in a previous conversation or an interview will also make you more prepared and be a more attractive candidate in the next one. So I think having a plan is definitely very important. And I think lastly, kind of similar to what my Zoom background shout out to is, really shoot for the stars and then you'll land at the moon. Do not be afraid to dream big. Pivoting to a new role or sector can seem difficult or scary at times, but it has done before by many other people that I've seen, and I'm sure so will you. And particularly what I would say has worked for me is I work out every day, and exercising hasn't only given me a lot more energy to start off my work morning, it's also like give me endorphins and boost my mood. I think nobody wants to network or interview someone with a negative attitude or seem unhappy with themselves in their job. So I think positive energy will transfer even through Zoom. So I think everybody definitely wants the other person or the interviewer to feel good about speaking with you, right? And I would say that I want to, give a shout out to my support network, which I'm super grateful for. Power to Fly being a platform that I'm super grateful that exists. But because I've been able to share potential setbacks, discuss alternative strategies, and appreciate the company of my network. When I need to take my mind off the career transition for a while. Vocalizing my thoughts has really helped me come up with better ideas and be more prepared in the future. So I think with that, I wanted to leave one offer to everybody in the audience today that I'm happy to be a resource to you all. My LinkedIn information is on the Summit website. You can also find me, Maggie Wong at Silicon Valley Bank. Happy to be a resource to you all and help in any way I can.
Great. And you are saying that you're hiring, is that right?
Correct. So right now, my team is hiring 2 positions, and I do envision that once those roles are filled, we'll be hiring more. And I would say not just my team within liquidity, the whole liquidity solutions department is also looking at adding roles from business management to sales to product. So do feel free to check out our website and connect with me if I can be of help navigating the company, and just happy to be a resource. And obviously very grateful to be able to connect with you all and be part of this diversity summit today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Maggie. So honored to be interviewing you today.